The Quebec Biker War, which resulted in over 80 cases of bombings, 120 cases of arson, and the disappearances of more than 20 men, happened for 8 years and changed the atmosphere of Quebec. It was the ultimate battle between the Hells Angels and the Rock Machine. So how did it all start? And who won the war? Let's find out. But before we start with the war, let's find out more about the competitors. First up is the Hells Angels. The Hells Angels is a motorcycle club founded in California in 1948, gaining notoriety as one of the most well-known outlaw motorcycle gangs. Comprising mostly white males on Harley-Davidson motorcycles, each member adopts a unique legal name, often a colorful nickname. Membership is tightly controlled, involving a rigorous training and initiation process. Established in Fontana, California, the club expanded with chapters in San Francisco and Oakland in the 1950s, and internationally into New Zealand in 1961. However, their public visibility surged in 1965 when Thomas C. Lynch, California's Attorney General, issued a report on motorcycle gangs, including the Hells Angels, highlighting their alleged hoodlum activities. This report gained widespread attention in the media, setting the stage for Hunter S. Thompson's book, Hells Angels: A Strange and Terrible Saga, which delved into the club's world. The Hells Angels faced increased scrutiny after their involvement in the Altamont Festival, a free Rolling Stones concert, in 1969. One of their members was charged with murder in connection with the stabbing death of a concertgoer, but he was later acquitted. The event's violent images were captured in the documentary Gimme Shelter. Exploitative biker movies further fueled public fascination during this period. While the Hells Angels had a reputation as formidable fighters, law enforcement later associated them with illegal drug activities, particularly the manufacture and distribution of methamphetamine. Attempts to prosecute members under the Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act in the early 1980s resulted in mistrials. Despite this, the Federal Bureau of Investigation continues to classify the Hells Angels as an outlaw motorcycle gang in its National Gang Report. Throughout their history, the Hells Angels navigated a complex relationship with the media. Hunter S. Thompson's portrayal initially presented a somewhat sympathetic view, but the club turned against him after his book's release. Ralph "Sonny" Barger, a long-term chapter president, became the club's public face and national spokesman, gaining qualified admiration from Thompson. The Hells Angels' association with criminal activities has been a recurring theme, with law enforcement agencies closely monitoring their actions. Despite legal challenges, the club has maintained a notorious reputation, and its role in the broader world of outlaw motorcycle gangs remains a subject of ongoing interest and concern. Now let's check out the Rock Machine, the other side of the story. The Rock Machine Motorcycle Club, RMMC, established in 1986 in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, is an international outlaw motorcycle club known for its presence across the globe. Founded by Salvatore Cazzetta and his brother Giovanni Cazzetta, the club has grown to become a significant player in the motorcycle subculture. With a strong foothold in Canada, the Rock Machine boasts 21 chapters spanning 7 provinces. Beyond Canada, its influence extends to the United States, where 9 chapters operate, as well as 11 chapters in Australia. Remarkably, the club has a global reach, with additional chapters established in 24 other countries worldwide. The Rock Machine's formation in 1986 marked the beginning of its journey into the motorcycle club scene. Salvatore Cazzetta, one of the key figures behind its establishment, played a pivotal role in shaping the club's identity and expansion. Alongside his brother Giovanni, they laid the foundation for a club that would not only make a mark in Canada, but also establish an international presence. Outlaw motorcycle clubs like the Rock Machine often cultivate a distinct culture characterized by a strong brotherhood among members, a shared love for motorcycles, and a rebellious spirit. The club's chapters typically organize rides, events, and gatherings, fostering a sense of camaraderie among its members. While the Rock Machine has undoubtedly left its imprint on the motorcycle club landscape, it's essential to note that outlaw motorcycle clubs, in general, have faced scrutiny and associations with criminal activities. Understanding the nature of these clubs requires acknowledging both their cultural aspects and the challenges they may pose in terms of law enforcement and public perception. So why did these biker clubs lock horns? Well, the conflict between these clubs brought forth the Quebec Biker War. The Quebec Biker War, spanning from 1994 to 2002, has its roots in the mid-1970s when the Hells Angels, an American outlaw motorcycle gang, expanded into Quebec by absorbing the Popeyes biker gang in December 1977. The Hells Angels swiftly established themselves in the Quebec drug trade, setting the stage for a violent conflict with rival biker gangs, the Rock Machine. The Biker War, sometimes referred to as the Second Quebec Biker War, began when the Hells Angels attempted to squeeze the Rock Machine out of the lucrative drug trade. The two central figures in this conflict were Maurice Mom Boucher, the leader of Quebec's Hells Angels, and Salvatore Cazzetta, the leader of the Rock Machine. Interestingly, Boucher and Cazzetta were once friends, leading a white supremacist motorcycle club called the SS in the early 1980s. However, their friendship soured when Boucher joined the Hells Angels, an affiliation that Cazzetta deemed unforgivable, particularly due to the infamous Lennoxville massacre on March 24, 1985. During this internal dispute between Hells Angels chapters, 5 members were executed at their clubhouse in Sherbrooke. In response to this fallout, Cazzetta formed his own outlaw motorcycle club, the Rock Machine, alongside his brother Giovanni. The Cazzetta brothers became dominant figures in Montreal's organized crime scene, operating in areas not controlled by the Montreal Mafia. By the early 1990s, tensions between the Hells Angels and the Rock Machine had been building, with the former having links to the Montreal Mafia, while the latter had ties to other mob and crime syndicates, especially francophone ones. This dynamic prevented the Hells Angels from expanding while Cazzetta was still running the Rock Machine. In the meantime, Boucher initiated a strategy of creating puppet clubs, small outlaw motorcycle clubs affiliated with a larger one, serving as sources for new recruits. This tactic, a long-standing outlaw biker strategy, allowed the Hells Angels to create a large pool of manpower for various gang activities while insulating full members from direct connections to criminal activity. The Rock Machine responded by creating their own puppet clubs. The opportunity for Boucher to dominate the Montreal drug trade came in 1994 when Salvatore Cazzetta was given a 10-year prison sentence in Florida for attempting to smuggle cocaine. Cazzetta was later transferred to a Quebec prison in 2002 and paroled in 2004. With Cazzetta out of the picture, Boucher aimed to realize his plan to control the drug trade. With the approval of the Hells Angels mother chapter in Oakland, California, Boucher issued an ultimatum. Anyone dealing drugs in Montreal had to buy their supply from the Hells Angels. In response to this ultimatum, Giovanni Cazzetta utilized his connections to build an alliance resisting the Hells Angels' attempt to secure a monopoly in the Quebec drug trade, estimated to be worth about $1 billion annually. The Hells Angels were already well established in Quebec, dominant in British Columbia, and established in Halifax. Controlling Quebec would give them a strong base to move into Ontario, the largest drug market in Canada. Cazzetta and leaders of other organized crime groups in Montreal formed the Alliance Against the Angels to counter the Hells Angels. The Quebec Biker War officially began on July 13, 1994, when 3 masked men shot and killed Pierre Douse, a member of a Hells Angels-affiliated club called the Death Riders, at a custom motorcycle shop in Montreal's Rivière-des-Prairies neighborhood. The Rock Machine struck again the next day, attempting to kill a Hells Angels member. On the same day, the Sûreté du Québec, Quebec's provincial police force, arrested several Rock Machine members for attempting to blow up the clubhouse of a Hells Angels puppet club on the south shore of Montreal. Within weeks, all Hells Angels chapters in Quebec had voted to join the conflict under the leadership of Maurice Boucher. This marked the beginning of Boucher's ascent to becoming the leader of one of the most powerful outlaw biker club chapters globally. Between the summer of 1994 and the summer of 1995, the conflict resulted in numerous shootings, bombings, and murders on both sides. On August 9, 1995, the violence took a tragic turn when an 11-year-old boy named Daniel Desrochers, playing near his home in Montreal's working-class Hochelaga Maisonneuve district, fell victim to a car bomb intended for drug dealer Marc Dube. Desrochers was struck in the head by metal shrapnel and died in the hospital 5 days later, becoming the first innocent victim of the Biker War. Over the next several weeks, the violence escalated further, In 1 week in September 1995, there was an assassination in a parking lot, bombings at a strip club, a bar, and the mansion of an organized crime figure, arson attacks on a pawn shop, tanning salon, and a used car lot, and a friendly fire incident where bikers accidentally killed 3 members of their own club. Desrochers's death shocked public opinion, particularly against the police, politicians, and the justice system. They were perceived as not taking the situation seriously and not doing enough to stop the carnage. In one instance, a high-ranking Montreal police officer openly admitted they were incapable of stopping the violence. Blame was also placed on the public, with the argument that the public's appetite for illegal drugs contributed to the biker war. Desrochers's death led to legislative changes, with Bills C-95 in 1997 and C-24 in 2001, imposing harsher punishment for members of organized crime groups. Operation Carcajou was launched on October 5, 1995, as a joint task force involving the RCMP, the Sûreté du Québec, and Montreal's municipal police force. However, political infighting and animosity between the Parti Québécois government in Quebec and the Liberal government of Jean Chrétien in Ottawa resulted in little more than finger-pointing to assign blame. By January 1996, the biker war had caused 28 deaths in 18 months. 2 particularly shocking crimes during this period were the 1997 murders of prison guards Diane Lavigne and Pierre Rondeau, and the attempted murder of a third, Robert Corriveau. Lavigne was shot by a man on a motorcycle while walking home from her shift at Montreal's Bordeaux jail. Rondeau was murdered during an ambush while driving a prison transport van with Corriveau. These murders were later revealed to be ordered by Hells Angels boss Maurice Boucher, carried out by a biker aspiring to join the elite Nomads unit, which only admitted members who had committed murder. Even people who were not from the gang were also affected. Another significant event was the attempted murder of veteran crime reporter Michel Auger in September 2000. Auger was shot 6 times in the back in the parking lot of his employer, the Journal de Montréal. Despite the severity of the attack, Auger managed to call 911 from his cell phone, eventually making a full recovery and resuming his work within 3 months. The Hells Angels had taken out a contract on his life, and public reaction to this attempt was extremely negative. The negative public sentiment prompted the Hells Angels and Rock Machine to announce a ceasefire. The truce was brokered by the Rizzuto crime family, involving Maurice Boucher and Frédéric Faucher, then president of the Rock Machine. However, this ceasefire proved short-lived as violence resumed after only a few weeks. The turning point in the Quebec Biker War occurred around 1999. After years of relentless attacks and counterattacks, the larger and more powerful Hells Angels had significantly weakened the Rock Machine and the Alliance. However, in a surprising twist, the Rock Machine formed an alliance with the Bandidos, an international outlaw biker club with chapters worldwide. This move was perceived as a strategy to prevent the Bandidos from expanding further into Canada, especially into the lucrative Ontario drug market. In December 2000, nearly 200 Ontario bikers chose to patch over, voluntarily joining the Hells Angels. This strategic move allowed the Angels' entry into the coveted Ontario market. The shift in alliances set the stage for a significant police action known as Operation Springtime in late March 2001. This massive operation involved the RCMP, the Sûreté du Québec, the Ontario Provincial Police, the Montreal Police, and 23 other municipal police forces. Operation Springtime resulted in the arrest of hundreds of bikers across Canada, including Maurice Boucher and 41 of his associates. While the operation disrupted the activities of the biker gangs and led to many arrests, it also created voids in Montreal's illegal drug trade. These voids were quickly filled by the new Bandidos affiliates, signaling a temporary windfall for the Bandidos. However, this windfall was short-lived. By June 2002, the police took action against the Bandidos' Canadian leadership in Operation Bandido, essentially wiping out the organization in one fell swoop. With these developments, the Quebec Biker War came to an end. Several factors contributed to the conclusion of the Biker War. Exhaustion among the assassins played a role, with both the Hells Angels and the Rock Machine experiencing the toll of years of conflict. Effective police tactics, such as Operation Springtime and Operation Bandido, disrupted the activities of the biker gangs and resulted in significant arrests. A critical aspect was the defection of some members of the Rock Machine to the Hells Angels. This shift in allegiance weakened the Rock Machine's position and further strengthened the Hells Angels. Additionally, the Rock Machine's merger with the Bandidos ultimately led to setting Quebec to the Hells Angels in 2003. The Quebec Biker War officially ended in June 2002, after the Hells Angels had eliminated all competition among Quebec's outlaw biker gangs. The toll was staggering, with 165 dead and more than 200 wounded, including innocent bystanders. Notably, the conflict's impact on the civilian population of Quebec, as noted by American journalist Julian Rubinstein, surpassed the conflict between New York City's mafia crime families in the 1970s and 1980s in terms of lives lost and the level of terror instilled. In the aftermath of the Biker War, legal consequences unfolded. In May 2002, Maurice Mom Boucher was found guilty of attempted murder and 2 counts of first-degree murder for ordering the killings of 3 prison guards. He was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years. Boucher's later arrest in November 2015 for plotting to kill Rizzuto, family associate Reynald Desjardins, was part of a series of sweeping raids targeting key organized crime figures in Montreal. Maurice Boucher died of throat cancer in prison on July 10, 2022, at the age of 69. Following his release from prison in 2005, Salvatore Cazzetta became an official member of the Hells Angels. He allegedly led the Quebec chapter from 2011 to 2015. In 2009, and during the November 2015 police raids, Cazzetta faced charges, including 5 counts of gangsterism and conspiracy to commit fraud. However, Cazzetta was denied bail on other charges, including conspiracy to traffic narcotics. In May 2018, Cazzetta sued the Attorney General of Quebec for $2 million, alleging that he had been detained without cause between November 2015 and August 2017. Simultaneously, he engaged in a legal battle with Revenue Canada over tax returns from the 1980s and 1990s. The Quebec Biker War remains a dark chapter in Canadian criminal history, highlighting the complexities of organized crime, alliances, and the challenges faced by law enforcement in dealing with such powerful and violent groups. The conflict's legacy serves as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences that can result from turf wars and power struggles within the criminal underworld.